I'd like to call the order of the Common Council meeting for August 10th, 2021 at 6:10 p.m. Roll call.
Alderpersons Madden.
Here.
Kubaki.
Here.
Engelhardt.
Present.
Kapusta is absent.
Here.
Hamel.
Here.
And Wolf.
Here.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Statement of public notice.
This meeting was noticed in accordance with the open meeting law.
Thank you. So we get to swear in our new municipal judge, Lisa Warwick.
Hello, everyone. All right, I'm Shelley Grogan, the outgoing municipal judge, and I'm honored to come back and swear in your new municipal judge, Lisa Warwick. So we're going to administer the oath. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Lisa T. Warwick,
I, Lisa T. Warwick,
having been appointed to the office of municipal judge
having been appointed to the office of municipal judge
for the city of Muskego,
for the city of Muskego,
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of said office to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Any comments from the outgoing judge that you want to?
I'll use the mic for this, I guess. You are in good hands with Judge Warwick. She trained for the last several months with me. She was unanimously chosen by your Common Council. And I have shared with her what a wonderful place this is to work and what a wonderful place it is to be the judge. So she comes with much experience. She is a prosecutor from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the last 30 years, just recently retired. And she is ready to go. First court night tomorrow night, if anyone wants to come. So, do you want to say anything, Lisa?
Thank you, Judge Grogan, for being here this evening. Thank you, Common Council, for allowing me this opportunity to be here tonight. I've had a very warm welcome from all the personnel. It's been a nice process to ease in. We'll see how tomorrow night goes. I'm sure it'll be fine. Please stay home. I'm sure there's something on television for you to watch. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thanks for coming and being here.
All right, as I explained earlier, we're going to be bouncing around in different parts of the meeting tonight. So we adjourned our committee of the whole where we were going over budget so we could go to the Big Lake. Then we're going to Common Council. I am going to do the area of statement of where people can come up, the public comment areas. So if there's anyone here that'd like to speak, we do have a few sheets that people filled out. If anyone else would like to speak, you can come up and talk about anything on the agenda. The items have to be in the agenda, and you have to be a citizen or a taxpayer in the city of Muskego. So that being said, I'm going to go to the public comment part. And the first sheet I have is from Barbara Miller.
So do I have to say my name and everything?
We have your name and address, so you don't need to say that, but you do need to speak into the microphone.
Okay, can you hear me?
Can you pull a little closer, or you can go closer, one of the two? I think they left it on. Just tap on it once. Yep, it's on.
Okay. So it might take me a little more than 3 minutes to voice my concerns. I hope that would be all right. I was sort of misinformed about the last meeting that I would not be able to speak, so I didn't have an opportunity to discuss my concerns at that meeting. There are two very important issues that my mom and have with the development adjacent to our property. That being the road that is being extended for possible future development. I understand why it's being created and the purpose of it, but I had requested that there be a blockade of some sort at the end to prevent people from driving through onto our property and out the, wrong way, out the secondary driveway onto College Avenue. As you can see here, if these people wanted to get out onto College Avenue quickly and this wasn't blocked, they could easily drive down onto our property and out to College Avenue rather than driving all the way back through the subdivision on the other side of the curve and then heading east. So again, I understand why it's here, but I don't feel that you should create a direct path for vehicles or children on bicycles or anything else to come right onto our property. We currently have issues with people trespassing on the property. The property all the way around is heavily posted, no trespassing, but we have problems with people walking their dogs, kids riding bikes, cars coming onto the property, hunters coming and hunting on the property. And right now I have 2 neighbors. So you can see with an additional 107 properties, homeowners on this adjacent property that we're going to continue to see more people violating our right to privacy and ignoring the no trespassing signs. In addition to that, with the one person who does have the right to use the easement, we have judge-ordered restrictions on that easement, which are recorded with the county, and they, to this day, do not follow those restrictions, and we spent thousands of dollars in court working on that, and we have no recourse but to go back to court. So if you have this person who's not following the rules and all these other people who are ignoring our signs, it is certain to happen that we're going to have more issues with trespassers on the property. Also up by the barn, there's quite a steep hill there. And if you're on either side of the hill, you cannot see if a car is coming or hear it. And with the people who come and go from the property behind us, they speed all the time. They're supposed to go 25 miles an hour or less, and they're always speeding. But if they see you out there when they get up to the hill, they slam on the brakes. My concern is, and our insurance company, we're already paying a premium for insurance because if someone gets hurt on our property or on that easement, we can be sued. So I'm concerned that children or what have you, other people will come over to use this easement, or just kids playing on their bikes are going to come over because it's easily accessible and get hurt on our property, and we're going to get sued. If we get sued, I don't know what our recourse is other than to try to sue the developer or the city for creating this scenario that I'm really not getting much support with trying to create a boundary of privacy for us and eliminate this scenario. The developer has created a preservation boundary throughout many of these lots because he stated that he knows that people who have properties adjacent to areas such as this will blatantly go beyond their lot and cut trees or do damage to that preserved area in the environmental corridor. But he's not creating any sort of boundary along our lot line stating that all of those residents are going to be ideal residents and no one's going to cause us any trouble. I don't really see how they are not going to be good here, but they're going to be good here. So I'm asking that the developer be required to put up some sort of fence or berm or something similar to this other area to discourage that type of activity. Again, he's doing it for the environmental corridor area, but not to preserve our right to live peacefully or safely or without additional expense or, troubles on a daily basis. Right now, we have people violating our privacy on a weekly basis. That's a lot when we don't have any neighbors, really. I don't know where they're coming from. and I have a hard time doing anything about it. So I would hope you would consider taking some steps to preserve our rights as well. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Norm. Tuletsky.
I want to talk again about the Kirkwood Crossing also. I want to reiterate my concern about the traffic that's going to be created on College. Now, the developer talked about a traffic study, but apparently it was never done when you put the park in. I almost got hit the other day because I've got something going on and I can't move real fast, and I couldn't. The guy had to hit the brakes. It's just, and we talked about the signage as far as slowing the speed down. There is none. And also, I wanted to talk about the lack of city services like sewer, water, and then the natural gas. Now, he's going to bring it in from Martin, but there's still not going to be anything along College Avenue where we could get serviced. And if they're going to do this type of development, I'd like to see them also incur the expense of putting that in. That otherwise, we're never going to see it. And I want to again question the zoning change to allow that many properties in there. I'm kind of concerned about the volume, especially because of the traffic on the road. One thing I was thinking about what Barb had mentioned, why don't they just make that a right of way and not even put the road in that goes up to her house? That might help a little bit. Beyond that, I just would hope that you'd really get back to the developer about this and try to alleviate, especially our concerns for the city services and the traffic on the road. That's bad now. It's just going to get worse with this development. I'm not against developing. I just want it to be in a responsible way. Thanks.
Thank you. Those were the two cards that were filled out for public comment. Just jump real quick to communications in the mayor's office. I have none. At this point, I'm going to jump back to, I'm going to adjourn the common council meeting, and then we're going to jump back to the committee of the whole, finish up that while staff's here, which is going over the capital budget. And when we're done with that, we will continue on with the common council meeting. All right. So I'm adjourning the common council meeting at 6:23 p.m. To reconvene the common council meeting at 7:18 p.m. We are at consent agenda, approval of the July 27th, 2021 common council minutes, approval of operators licenses, resolution 069-2021, approval to release plotted drainage easement, resolution 070-2021, approval of a memorandum of understanding with the Muskego, Norway School District for School Resource Officer Program for the 2021-22 school year, and resolution 071-2021, approval of a preliminary plot for the Kirkland Crossing subdivision.
Move to approve and gross except for 071-2021.
Second.
All those in favor of everything but resolution 071-2021, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Where do we want to go first? Do you want to bring back the preliminary plot after we do the unfinished business? I'm thinking that's probably the best route, so that's what I'm going to do. Going to unfinished business, ordinance 1461, an ordinance to amend the zoning map and 2020 comprehensive plan of the city of Muskego from RSE and RS1 to PD, Kirkland Crossing, second reading. Adam, get us up to speed.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to rehash everything because most of you have heard this a couple times now. Kind of just go over some key changes or updates. The biggest thing, the proposal is for 108 total lots, 107 within the subdivision plat, and then one lot that's an existing home that would be split off that would remain. This had a public hearing 2 weeks ago. It had Plan Commission review last week. Plan Commission did recommend approval. They are just a recommending body. The final decision lies in the hands of the council tonight. As far as some of the comments that came up at the public hearing, I think it's important to kind of mention a few of those, so kind of give some of the residents some answers, whether they're here tonight or listening or look online. As far as some of the concerns that were originally brought up, outdoor storage or kind of junk in backyards was brought up. So we just wanted to reiterate the city definitely has rules and enforcement power over outdoor storage. So we don't expect any junk in yards to be an issue, especially for what these people will probably be paying for these developments. I expect the yards to be maintained immaculately, as well as there are HOA rules usually that these subdivisions have to prevent that kind of stuff. As far as traffic goes, it was noted by the development team previously that the county is requiring a traffic impact analysis along College that specifically usually looks at the access points. So that is something the county is going to require, which ultimately is a condition of approval. So any of these rezoning or plat approvals are based upon the technical comments, and like a traffic impact analysis outcome would be one of those technical comments. There were some comments and notes about some signage being inconsistent, and that's something I think either was or will be forwarded to the county to look at. That doesn't affect the plat at all, but obviously we want signage to be appropriate on any kind of roadway, whether it's a city or county road, College being a county road specifically. As far as grading and runoff goes from adjacent sites, that's something that their design engineer will have to account for. So whether it's drain tile, whether it's surface runoff, when they look at these subdivisions, they don't just look at it in a bubble. They look at what's around it and how does it flow to this site, through this site, away from this site. So all of that will be looked at by their design team as well as reviewed by our engineers that are looking to make sure that they didn't miss anything. As far as utilities go, water and sewer, and all of the, what I call them the private utilities like We Energies for gas, electric, cable, telephone, those will all be expanded to this development and through it. We cannot force the developer to service people outside of their boundary, but what they can do is bring it much closer to these people that might be hundreds of feet or thousands of feet or miles away from connections now. So in the case of someone wanting a gas connection, where that gas connection may have been a mile away now, maybe it's only 100 feet or 200 feet away, which might make it a lot more cost effective to get it to them, or who knows, maybe the utility will do it for free because it's a shorter distance. I don't know, but they would deal with the utility companies on that. But our ordinances don't give the ability to service outside their boundaries, but they will have to provide stubs to the property to the east as it has future division potential. As far as zoning goes, RS2 is a real common zoning that is in the city, including the Marlin Meadows neighborhood, which is directly across the street on Martin Drive. To kind of give an example, the overall density of this development is about 1.18 units per acre, which is actually lower than the density of some of those surrounding neighborhoods, including Marlin Meadows, which is just across Martin Drive. RS2 is the base zoning as part of their planned development, as was mentioned. In looking at the RS2, that RS2 makes up almost 30% of all residential districts in the city. It's the sole single largest zoning percentage, just to show you that that kind of lot size category is very common in the city. Doesn't mean it's the sole district. We have over almost a dozen different districts, but it's 30%. That's the largest single district, and it makes up almost 16% of all zoning in the city when you look at commercial, industrial, everything. So it just shows you that it is a predominant district that is not something new for the council to approve in the community. As far as wetlands go, in a planned development, we can require them to be preserved in outlots. In a non-planned development, we can't force that. So that's one of the reasons why a planned development is probably a good solution for a lot of developments, including this one here. As far as the wooded areas too, the bulk of the wooded areas will be preserved in outlots, which again, the planned development allows us to have a lot more control over that than if they weren't planned development zoning requested. As far as access points to Martin Drive, it will meet all current city standards. Our engineering team, as well as their design team, will look at what all the current standards are and look to see what kind of, if any, improvements are needed to that intersection. One thing that was noted in the past was relating to Martin Drive and a recreational path. There was a path previously discussed some years ago. At that time, we kind of did some homework, and the discussion kind of promptly stopped. I think there was some neighborhood opposition to some neighbors further down the road. As part of this development, there'd be no need for a new trail across their frontage because there's a trail right across the street. We don't usually do trails on both sides of the road. If there is some discussion that ever is wanted to be had by the elected officials about doing that Martin Trail or looking at it again, that's a separate discussion for a separate day as it's outside these boundaries. There will be a connection to Park Arthur, though. Anytime a neighborhood is adjacent to a park set, we try to have a pedestrian connection, so there will be a path that will connect this neighborhood to Park Arthur directly. And last thing, there was a comment brought up at the public hearing, which was something that in our due diligence we came across too, that notes that the way the comprehensive plan was written back in 2008, 2009, there was a reference that this site should be looked at by the Park and Conservation Committee for future park expansion. Now, just looking at internal planning documents, talking with staff, administration, staff didn't seem to see this being a really appropriate thing nowadays because Park Arthur still has a good chunk of undeveloped land that we're still trying to figure out programming for in our upcoming park and open space plan. But since the plan does say it has to be done, one of the conditions of approval that this will have to go through Park and Conservation as a condition of approval to be sure that they don't want to try to proceed purchasing. Plus, these lands are being sold at development prices, not park or conservation prices. So I'm sure cost would be a huge, huge concern if that were to ever come up. Any questions from the council? That kind of reiterates all the big questions that came up.
Yeah, Adam, I know at the last speaker that was up here, they talked about between 82 and 81, the road going in there. Explain how that would become a dead end, that people can't ride bikes or vehicles through there. So
Talking with engineering, at the end of any kind of road stub. Now, normally those road stubs we typically see, and because it's so short, I guess I do have to talk to engineering on this. Normally we do a temporary turnaround bulb, whether it's a temporary turnaround bulb or not. Obviously there's always an end to the road. We don't put curbing on the end because it is intended to go further someday. I understand that the neighbor has no intention, from what I've heard, of developing at this point, which is totally their right. The city will never force them to develop. Being provided a stub is, if they ever want to sell or develop, a huge advantage to them, and our ordinances do require it. Looking at smart connectivity, you know, we want roads to not be all dead ends all over the place.
But you could connect off a cul-de-sac anyway.
Correct. If it's fully curbed and if someone owns all around it, you can't. That's why we stub this to the lot line. But the city could easily do like a barricade at the end, like you see. I don't know if all of our subdivisions have them, but anytime you have a dead end, you can install some kind of barricade. Now, can someone walk around a barricade? Yes, they could. But can someone climb over a fence? Yes, they can. I mean, a barrier is meant to serve as a visual deterrent, and anyone can do what they want to try to go around or over it. I don't know how you police that, but yeah, I mean, I think there could definitely be like a wood barricade, permanent, not some temporary construction thing that would prevent a vehicle from getting through. I mean, other than no trespassing, I don't know what you could do to keep people out formally.
Are we going to have a discussion among ourselves, or is everything through Adam right now?
You can have them amongst ourselves. He's just here if you have questions.
Yeah, I can jump up if you have
I'm just
questions.
asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Follow-up question on what Alderman Wolf just asked, and this is our common approach on where we have a leg like this left open?
Yeah, you could always have the potential of not extending the road in that short stub because it's a really short section. With the layout of the lots, I think it makes sense to have that connection because I think there are some lots fronting on it, or they could just do a shorter extension, so we could just stop the road a little shorter. The idea is, I'm sure the developer's intent would be less road the better for them, right? Less money out of their pocket. We require the extension to the property line, or just shy of, for the sake of, that way if the neighbor next door ever did develop and or sell to develop, that's a shorter road they have to run. So the idea, why should the neighbor make up the difference here? So this developer runs it to the extent. Now, if we want to stop, a little bit shy or 20 feet shy or whatever, just to give more gap, I mean, that driveway that was in question on the lot next door isn't touching the lot line. I mean, it's definitely close. You're going to see it, it's there. But to go from one road to the other driveway, you're driving through grass or field. It's not like you're just going to step a foot over and be there. But like I said, I'm sure there could be, that road could be designed a little bit shorter. Once again, it's a loss of an asset to that neighbor, but if the neighbor doesn't want it, now that's fine. And we can still do some kind of, like I said, barrier that's appropriate for a typical road stub.
Well, it would seem to me that barrier would solve the problem, having the car access the property. And
Yeah, and I know there's been some questions, could a car or person go around the barrier? And yeah, I mean, anyone can drive on lawn or drive over a curb or whatever it is, but
But to make it
that's an
easy for
exception
them,
to the rule.
just to make it harder for them is the goal. But if you moved it back, say 20 feet, because it's the number you threw out there, you have to have access for a car to turn around at that point as well. So you would move the whole system back 20 feet? Otherwise,
Yeah,
you
and
have,
I don't-
because you're going to get cars going in there, especially if people don't, I mean, it's not
and
likely a lot, but cars will get in there and they'll have to back out. Then.
Yeah, depending so it's a super, super short road stop. So depending on the exact length of it, it's something our engineering team, I'm sure, will have suggestions, do they need a turnaround? If it's only servicing 1 or 2 homes, maybe they don't even do a turnaround in there, to be honest. You know what I mean? If it's that short, it's not like it's servicing 30 homes. There's 2 lots that front on it, if even that. So minimal lots fronting on it, it might not even have a turnaround feature. And I guess that's something engineering will look at.
That's what it looks like.
We can do temporary bulbs. They sometimes like to propose Ts, even though we're not the biggest fan of Ts. We don't do a lot of Ts in the city. So we usually do a temporary bulb, which means the curbing would go up until the bulb would start, and then where the bulb would be would just be an unpaved a circle, because why put all that extra money into curbing that's going to just be ripped out someday? So we try to spend unnecessary money, even of a developer, if there's no need to.
I suppose the idea is just to show that there could be a road there someday, but.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, they're still putting in their portion, and the same thing with the utilities are being stubbed to the lot line, as it adds a huge value to the adjacent lot, even though the owner may not want it now, which is understandable. That's why we're not making it go any further. Someday adds a huge value to that lot.
Yeah, we have to look at what's going on now, not what could be. The other thing that was brought up was a buffer zone, as I would call it. I guess that would be along the east property. It looks like when I look at this, they're depending on the east property to have their own buffer zone. Those properties go back to the property line, and there's nothing there. I understand the concern about trespassing and stuff. I mean, that happens everywhere, but at the same time, there's nothing presented as a buffer zone in there, and why is that?
So in my 21-year career, we have never screened one house from another house. The city has never gotten into the policy of a staff recommendation to say, if I have houses, I shouldn't have to see other people's houses. Okay. I don't know of a single neighborhood that's ever been done. Now, that doesn't mean that someone may not offer that as an option, or it can be required by council, but staff has never suggested that. Like I said, most houses see other houses around them.
But so the ones that I see out there, the one that comes to mind would be Kohl's department store to the subdivision.
Commercial, yes. We've never done residential. Commercial, we have. Industrial and commercial and some multifamily. I'll use that carefully because not always. You'll sometimes see buffers because even multifamily is still residential, Let's embrace neighborhoods, let's embrace each other. But definitely between commercial and industrial, we always do screening. Berming, you have to be really careful because especially if there are drainage concerns, the berm's the worst thing you can do because how's water getting over a berm?
But I understand there's like fencing going up in this area here, so that's something that wouldn't be considered to be put in, or is that up to the council?
Hey, Rob, can I speak to that?
Yes.
I've been pretty heavily involved in a lot of the back and forth with residents and the developer has offered to create a kind of a preserve on that backside of those lots like you see elsewhere. Obviously, when he first put this together, he wasn't aware of some of the objections and the things we need to work through. So he has offered to create a protected tree line along that backside like you would see. I guess I'm comparing it to the one to the south. You see how those couple lots have tree line along there to create that and protect that along that same line to create a barrier.
So would that be a common area or would it be owned by the residents?
I believe it would be owned by the residents and just in an easement, as that's what's happening on those southern lots that abut that same area. It's still owned by the owners because they need it for lot totals. If you want to keep them that 20,000 minimum, they need it to be part of their lot. And it would just be an easement that would restrict what they can or can't do to it.
So how wide is this going to be that he's talking? I'm just trying to get
we don't have a standard, so it's.
So I guess, Rob, what I had walked through was that
I'm just wondering about easement would be.
Good question.
There's a lot of, obviously it's not written in here, but those are contingencies that we would tell them, hey, look, if you want this to go to the next step, like obviously we're approving the rezoning, we don't have a full plan in front of us. If it's not addressed at the time, we can say, forget it. I mean, I obviously want to put them through that, but.
Yeah, without troubleshooting these lots are deep. That's why they asked for the narrower width. If you remember, a lot of those lots that are in the pinkish hue, they wanted to reduce width because they're deeper. So having a small area of conservation, preservation on the back, and I'm sure they'll have to have swales and stuff back there because, you know, that helps with all the drainage. That could be next to it. So in general, since the lots are pretty deep, there should be ample space to keep some kind of protection buffer, whether it's 20 feet or I don't know what it is, you know, no touch zone, whatever we want to call it. You know, I guess we would just ask for would be some kind of direction on what's the goal. Is the goal to just basically say whatever's there, leave it, don't touch it, and just start your development, you know, 20 or however many feet in? I don't know. That's what we would need. So when we do the plat technical review, we can bring up and say, hey, add this specific, 20 foot or whatever the number is that you want along that lot line.
We want to try to keep that to a common denominator for future or past things, so that we're not always recreating this, would be my opinion. So 20 feet, everything can change in different developments, whatever.
Well, this is going to be a unique situation around.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, it isn't really something that you're necessarily going to write in. We're making an accommodation for a neighbor to help with kind of the privacy concern, and the developer's willing to make an adjustment. I don't have a number. I know that I've communicated with him. He's made it clear he is going to do that and put that in writing. And I would say that when the project comes before us, if it's not there, that's something that I would have a problem voting for if obviously he's not holding to what he said he would do. But.
Sure. So the preliminary plat, was the item that was deferred from consent. And that's probably the time where we should be determining. Now, whether you guys want to determine that, whether you want staff to determine that, whether you want the applicant to propose something, the next time this would be in front of this board
It's the final plat.
would be till final plat approval, meaning they'll already have done construction at that time. So we probably want to figure out what that number is now, or
That's fine.
assign who you want to make that call, whether it's.
Well, the developers have Bill, did you have something in mind?
And I also, Mr. Curdy's walking up here. I just want to point out, we've never done this before. So just, we're
just
creating
asking.
precedence here. So just, if he's willing to do something, he can state it. But as far as
Is there already a tree line there right now?
Yeah.
That you would be taking down? Is there already something there you'd be taking down?
No, we plan on preserving each and every one of those trees.
Well, I'm talking about the properties on the east side. There's stuff in that lot that you wouldn't take down.
Well, there are some mature trees and there are some scrubby trees, but what I have represented is that we are willing to place on our plat a preservation area, just as we have on the back of the lots that back up to the to the environmental corridor.
To where? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
To protect those lots. We'll do it as a no-touch zone, or a zone where we would protect to, say, the drip line of the tree, which usually protects the roots, so that there wouldn't be any grading around those trees, and so that there'd be a buffer between our neighbor to the east and those lots. And those lots are quite deep. They're about 240 feet deep. And I visited with our engineer with regard to that, and he's sure that he can design a grading plan to preserve those trees and not do any swales or anything that would compromise the trees that are there. So we're willing to do that.
Great.
And I've mentioned that to our neighbor to the east.
And I think that's, in my back and forth, I think that's a very reasonable adjustment from the developer that, again, I don't know a number, Adam, if you could.
I'm going to say 30 feet is reasonable.
And that feels like,
20, 30 feet would be a lot, I would think, but I don't know the area.
And we don't have a problem with a barricade at the end of that stub street either.
Well, yeah, you want to keep people off of someone else's property. That'd be just common sense, I think.
It's appropriate.
Yeah.
anyone else have any comments? Sorry, Alderman Wolf, I just want to give other people an
I'm just
opportunity
looking
to
through
jump
my
in.
notes.
Anyone from this side? All right, I'll give you back the microphone.
The only other concern, I don't know if anybody else has this, is the amount of houses in here with the exits. I just look at this plan and it's just kind of, it's kind of pushed together, and I know the exits have to be, they're governed where they can be and stuff. Especially Martin Drive, I look at that, I can just see a major problems with traffic there and the hill and whatever. The other thing is the pathway. That's a private pathway to the park, or is that a public?
I guess we haven't gotten to that nitty-gritty detail yet. I mean, it can be either.
I think when we put these other subdivisions in, we've made them like on
Yeah,
Martin, we would have them put, the developer put, I'd like to even see something on College, but I think that's going to be reconstructed one day.
Yeah, and I don't know if that would be a county call if that's even allowable with the tight right-of-way that the county has there and that curvature. I don't know if what the county would allow.
Yeah,
with the path
you
or
have to
not.
move the properties back,
Yeah, because keep in mind, the path has to be in the right-of-way, which would make it a county decision then.
I just look at it, how many cars are in here and how small the exits are and where they're located. And some of this is depending on the dead end that we're going to block off to make sure they don't go in the neighbor's yard. So I just have a concern on the amount of houses. I don't know, does anybody else have a concern on that? Or?
So without a rezoning, they probably can get about 90 just by doing simple
Well, that was
math.
a rough estimate.
Rough estimate.
If they didn't rezone and just went like to the RS1, which part of the property zone today, so it's not.
So 17 houses difference, roughly.
No, that's a rough number.
But we made an exception on the Ingalls property on Janesville Road, and that went down several houses because of neighbor concerns.
That was strictly because there was an old approval that you were falling back on the old approval, and the developer just didn't like that. They wanted something
But it was
new.
a whole new developer and everything. It was a whole new project, so we didn't. I mean, they were.
Yeah, that's why this one is no plan. It's starting fresh.
I understand the profit side, and I understand they're going to ask for the whole world. But us as leaders, we have to look at what we want to do for the future of Muskego, and if this is what we want to agree on. And the density of this, I mean, there was some really good points brought up about the schools and this and that. And I mean, there's a lot of concerns about this, and I don't think anybody's against the development. It's just that, how do we want to accomplish that development? So I do like that he's looking to help out the neighbor on the side with the street and the buffer zone that I call it, which gives me a positive feeling. And I know we worked with you guys before on other projects, and they've been fine. I just have a problem with the density. I
think the important thing to keep in mind is, you mentioned the crunched in together look. And the reason that was intentional because they are preserving that large area of environmental corridor. If they weren't doing a planned development, they wouldn't have to preserve it. And the lots wouldn't be nearly as quote unquote crunched in. Yeah, you would lose some, but that's, the city has these adopted plans. Our conservation and park plan is the biggest one, as well as the sewer pack corridors. We want to preserve those woods. And in exchange to do that, that's why they're asking for the planned development, is to allow that exchange of, hey, their density, this is not dense. Like I said, this is less dense than Marlin Meadows, which there was a lot of, comments from Marlin Meadows residents last time. This is more rural. It's 1.1 unit per acre, meaning if you were to get rid of all the trees and pretend it was a big farm field, every lot would be just a little under an acre. So you got to put in perspective, are you worried about density or are you worried about lot size? Because they're very different topics, and their density is low. They're in the medium density category just barely. If they were 0.2 less dense unit per acre, they'd be in low density, which is what they're at today. So it's not a huge departure from the land use that's there today. Yes, they are clustered together, but our codes promote that. That's why they did it, because of preserving those open, those preservation
So let
features.
me rephrase. I guess my concern is.
One second. Alderman, he's been trying.
Oh,
He's just trying to weigh in. So
I want to weigh in this respect. This strikes me as being somewhat similar, and I may be viewing it wrong, but Lake Forest and the rest of the homes all the way between Hillendale and Janesville Road.
This is a lot less dense than Lake Forest.
Yeah, and that is something that's been established in the city for a long time, and is the roadways there work well.
I mean, and that's one quick comment, Kevin.
Yeah.
I was on my roll here, what I was saying. I shouldn't say density. I'm concerned about the traffic because of College and Martin with this amount of houses in that area. I mean, that's my real concern. I mean, if we had, I'd like to see 2 more exits out of here. You know what I mean? I mean, that would be perfect. I look at fire and rescue and police and whatever. I mean, the whole thing is the 2 exits is what concerns me. And that's why I think less houses would be better.
The county doesn't allow another exit onto College, as an FYI.
What's that?
The county.
I know, I understand why you can't have
There is
more.
an emergency act. So if your concern is emergency, which that's predominantly historically been the council's concern, they have that third emergency, but the county won't allow that to be a full access.
Right. And that's off of College.
Yes.
And that's coming in.
That's where they have more frontage, so it makes sense. That's where that
And
other
it's coming in where?
eastern leg
The
is.
east, you'll see that green line coming through on the east end around the
Lot 97?
the northeast part there.
Oh, way over here on the cul-de-sac.
Yeah, where that cul-de-sac is with the big green area in the middle, just
95.
north of that is that emergency access. So it will be maintained all year round for access.
Yeah, I know, I've seen that before in other places.
1 lane wide, and we have those all over the city.
Want to go?
Go ahead, Kevin, sorry.
While this is not necessarily a conservation subdivision, it mirrors what we've seen out there, including the one over on Racine and Woods, the new one on Lake Danoon. You're sacrificing homes in clusters for, as you mentioned, Adam, the viability of keeping trees out there. So I have no problem with the density. I have no problem with the subdivision. I appreciate the builder making some comments relative to the east property line and to that stub. I'm good with the whole thing.
I have one more thing kind of to mention, and there are some residents in my district that have expressed concern. I think the traffic on College has come up a lot. The Planning Commission, one of the members of the Planning Commission lives on College, and he talked about how hard it is to get in and out. And I realize that that's something we have to address outside of this project. We've got to figure that out as well. I actually have a call into the county and just want to discuss what their plans are from there. I know at one point they were planning on straightening that road like 40 years ago. Speed limit came up. There's just, I think, some things to address because there is more developable land up there, and I don't see that getting less traffic as time goes by. So I think as a city, we need to figure out what do we need to do with the county to address the traffic concerns that are there. So
the other last question I have is we're going to go back to the trail. Is it a good thing to have it public or private? I don't know. Just a question I'm throwing out there.
Most cases where a neighborhood, just thinking existing areas that have a trail like that, you probably put an easement and you say it's for public purpose. If it'd be one thing if it just looped for, like, let's say they had their own wooded area and they were putting trails in their woods, that would be not uncommon to have private because they own the outlot.
It's going from a public street
but when it goes to a public street to a public park, that could be achieved either in its own outlot dedicated to the city, but I think even an easier option is probably just having an easement saying easement for public trail purpose for access to park or something. But yeah, I think that's an easy.
I guess I'm glad he's going to work with the property on the side there and with the road and the buffer zone. I think that makes a big difference in this development for me. Like I said, I'd like to see more access, but I understand why we can't have it.
Any other comments? Hearing none, can we get a roll call vote on this?
Amendment for what? Oh, yeah.
Oh, never mind.
Do we need to add that in for the couple of things we talked about?
Actually, yeah. We haven't even brought this to the table yet, so I need a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
Do we need to throw an amendment on for writing in that buffer that we talked about? Is that, or can that just be?
We can do that at the preliminary plot.
Yeah,
Okay.
The next
Got it.
item, probably more appropriate.
Yeah, roll call vote then.
Alderperson Madden,
Yes.
Kubaki,
Yes.
Engelhardt,
Yes.
Terrence,
Yes.
Hamel,
Yes.
and Wolf.
Yes.
There's 6 in favor.
Thank you very much. We're moving back to Resolution 071, 2021, approval of preliminary plot for the Kirkland Crossing subdivision.
I make a motion. So we didn't do that last time. Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion. So it sounds like,
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion. Is that right? Am I out of order?
yes. Jeff, what's the best way for him to do this?
For him to make his amendment?
Yeah.
I would make the amendment, vote on that.
How should he word it? Is he going to?
Something about, the per the developers offering easement shall be provided. I know if you're worried about precedent, Mayor.
Well, it would
Maybe.
basically be a contingency like all these other ones are. So we'd have to make it, Adam, some kind of a.
Could just add it as an additional number in the
I'd add
contingency
it as-
area.
Yeah, I'd add it, but I mean, it's the language that we're looking at right now. So what are you thinking in terms of?
Well, we can leave it up to you guys to decide the 20 to 30 feet or whatever it is, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think.
And also with the road, the same thing, where you guys decide how far back you're going to move it, so buffer it off somehow.
So is there a deal breaker as far as a number? I guess I'm looking for.
I know, right? I don't want to put
it's easier-
21 feet and he can only get 20 and then it's.
Well, that's kind of why I want to leave it up to staff with some technical.
If we say,
reviews.
a buffer between 20 to 30 feet based upon the features that they're trying to preserve.
You could
like I
say not
said,
less than.
Yeah, you'd say not less than 20 feet. I think that's reasonable.
That gives you that
Option.
wiggle room.
Are you comfortable with the 20 feet? Okay.
Okay, yep.
And also is the city going to do the road or they do the road?
And then the road itself, or are you
As
talking
far as the
about
physical
block
road
wall?
design goes, that's when they bring in their construction plans, if the intention, it can just be verbalized in the minutes, I think. If the intention is to just say, don't butt the road up to the lot line, stop it a little bit short.
Well, do we
can
want
just design it that way.
Is that effective for anything? I don't see the effectiveness of doing that. Putting a barricade up there.
Yeah, a barricade is.
I think a barricade would
be
be.
fine. Otherwise,
Yeah, and that's
just
something we would
let me
do,
put problems later.
knowing
without
it's a
it.
concern, that I don't think we need a motion for that.
Because that road is gravel, so if somebody's going to drive on a gravel road, they probably are going to go over the grass if there's not a barricade there. So I would say a barricade would be a priority.
I think some of the dilemma that was brought up was she was worried about having horses there and people coming over and trespassing, kids bringing their bikes on there and stuff. So I don't know.
I mean, she should post her property immediately on the other side.
She said it's posted, yeah, but.
I believe it is quite a bit.
And beyond that,
Okay.
you guys can do what you want. I
don't
just
know.
don't see.
I
I don't
was just
see how
asking-
being any more effective.
Can't we leave that barricade up to the staff? I mean.
Yeah,
That's what
whatever
I
the
said.
barricade is.
That's what I said, put that in with the same thing.
Debate this
You
whole
guys decide how you want to,
Yeah,
how you want
let
to
the
do the road
staff-
there. And if it's-
Then the bigger item is probably that preservation boundary.
And then
Is the barricade a contingency too?
I mean, you can move back 5 feet. I mean, what's the
We would
big
just
deal?
if it's a concern, we do it as a design censure, so I don't think it needs to be a
So the
contingency.
amendment will be a contingency on the not less than 20.
20 feet for their preservation buffer.
anything on the trail.
The one that goes to the park?
Yeah, do-
No, I would call that a technical staff thing, my
Okay.
opinion too. I mean, is a consensus that the city's okay?
I was just
it makes
asking.
sense, if it's going from a public road to a public park, why wouldn't we want it to be publicly accessible?
Sure.
Right. Okay. Anything else?
I think we're good.
So on the motion to amend, did you get a second on that?
No.
Can we get
I'll second it.
Irene second.
seconded? Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Hearing none, all those in favor of the amendment to the motion say aye.
So the amendment, just so we're
just
clear, the
voting on the
amendment's just the buffer area.
Just the buffer zone.
Just the
Just the
buffer area.
buffer.
The not less than the 20 feet thing.
That's fine.
All right. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any further discussion on the motion as amended? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion as amended say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to new business.
You don't have any.
We have no new business. Review committee reports. The Finance Committee from July 13th is in front for your review.
Holy cow.
And then first reading of ordinance and possible second reading if rules are waived. Ordinance number 1460, an ordinance to add chapter 229 to the municipal code of the city of Muskego, low-speed vehicles, neighborhood electric vehicles, and golf carts. First reading. Questions that we want brought back or any, so I guess I'll introduce it a little bit. So since the first time we talked about this, we have this limited to all roads of 25 miles an hour or less. And you can cross roads of 35 miles an hour or less with the low speed and neighborhood vehicles as long as you're going from point to point. Meaning that 25 mile an hour road, if you're on one and you're crossing a road that's 35, there has to be a 25 on the other side of that road. So you're allowed to cross the road, not drive down it to get to another entrance.
Did we have a, maybe I skipped it, I don't know.
And police chief
A
has signed
time?
off on everything that we have on it so far. He would
Is this
be
like
here.
they could do this in the winter time as well?
There's a whole bunch of stuff going on out in the community right now, so with the storms, so that's where he's at.
Do we have this where, I mean, is there certain months they can't do this? Is this open all year round?
Right now, we have it open with, we don't have any preclusion on time of year on the current ordinance as it's presented.
I mean, I got concerns about this whole thing to begin with. I mean, and in the winter, you know, you get these guys out there in the streets and I think it's even worse than in the summer. You know, I have concerns of where are they going to park these and store them? I mean, I'm already getting complaints about boats, campers, jet skis, snowmobiles, I'm missing something, cars, and now we're going to throw another vehicle out there. Where is this going to be stored? Is that addressed? Can they just park it on their driveway?
Well, we would follow our existing ordinances for any of that.
So can they park on the street when they stop by someone's house?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have concerns that, we talked about when we did the development on the lake by the old school, that the roads are so small that people can't even drive cars in there. And the roads around the lakes, the curvy ones, and, I just see this as an accident waiting to happen. I might be the only one on this, but I don't know why we're doing this. We're not a golf cart community.
Well, we're trying to be one.
Yeah, but a golf cart community has trails for golf carts.
No, not necessarily.
Streets?
No.
Most of them do. I mean, a true one does.
Waterford doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know, I just want more thing for the police to deal with if that's what they want to do. And I don't see the benefit of this. I don't, like I said, am I the only one seeing this? Is everybody else in favor on this?
Alderman Madden.
I not only did I read it, but I did talk to a couple of the officers about it. And they are saying, it says that you can't stop in the road. You'd have to have a parking place that you could park in to put it on the road. And now that it's down to 25 miles an hour, I guess I really don't have a big problem with it. If the road's narrow, you're not going to stop on it because it's trouble. And I know that this also includes, as far as you were talking about summer or winter, this also includes like four-wheelers.
No, it does not.
Well,
this does not include.
It doesn't specify, though. It says four-wheel.
We do define what they are.
Four-wheeled.
An ATV does not qualify.
It says low-speed vehicles shall be four-wheeled and have a speed range. It doesn't say golf cart.
It's defined in the federal code.
Is it?
So if you read the
Okay.
federal code, and that's what I reference in there, so that
Okay.
is definitely not an ATV. Only a low-speed vehicle or a neighborhood.
No,
Okay.
in all honesty, I'm not saying that we would never bring that back, but let's see how this goes. And,
Yeah. And I see they have to be licensed and have the lights and all the proper lighting and stuff. So I'm not as concerned about it as when we were talking about 35.
I did see that it has to be registered. Do they have to be licensed like an automobile since they're riding down the road?
The LSVs and the low-speed vehicles and the neighborhood electric vehicles, not the
what?
golf carts.
They have to be licensed? They have a license on it?
The low-speed vehicles and the neighborhood
Yeah, because
electric
I'm just
vehicles.
concerned that with the license registration, you can go back to who owns it, so that there's not just wild carts out there,
Well, in the golf carts, we're requiring a local registration.
Right,
for
and
it.
they'll have to put that on the back of the golf.
Yeah, I saw that in there.
I have,
Alderman.
yeah. My neighborhood does this all the time. They've been doing it for years. I'd like to know what incidents have come up out of it, how many incidents, why are we restricting what they've done consciously, and I don't know about the incidents.
Does that make it right?
I'm not, I don't know what we're addressing exactly when there's been a process going on for a long time here.
Well, I think the process, John, is there going to be more of these in more neighborhoods, and I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know what's going on in
Maybe
other
I'm not looking at it
neighborhoods,
right.
but my neighborhood, particularly in the area of the west side of the lake, in my particular neighborhood, they have a number of people that they do that to get down to the Hillview Beach, and that's what they've done, and they've done it consistently for a long time. I don't know of any accidents that took place. I don't know of any situations. And so I'm saying, we pass an ordinance like this, then we put them in a position where people that have conscientiously done what they wanted to do are suddenly in a position where they're violating a law.
I thought right now technically it's illegal, right? I mean, that was where this came from, because the chief came in and said if somebody did that, technically they're supposed to give them a ticket right now.
Yes, they would. They're taking a risk themselves, correct?
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, like, if the police officer was following the letter of the law, they would have to.
So I think we're doing kind of a discussion. I mean, you know, horse traffic, pedestrians, bicycles, golf carts, they're all a little different, but they're all a hazard on the road. And we don't.
Cars are a hazard on the road.
I know that. So I'm wondering what we're addressing exactly that is the need here to this degree. And further, I'm asking about the position of most of them are not brand-new golf carts. Brand-new golf carts may have all this other equipment on them. The typical ones I see do not have this equipment on them now. And I don't see why we would force that if we haven't had a problem with it. Now, if there's a problem, bring the problem forward, and then we talk about it.
Anyone else? Anything specific you want brought back for second reading?
I don't know, like I said, I don't know if we want to have them in the winter months. Do we want to have them on the roads in the winter months? I mean, that was the other question I brought up.
Somebody wants to sit in their open air golf cart in 0 degree and freeze their butt.
I'm just concerned about the handling abilities and stuff that, you know, they can.
We don't have restrict mopeds or motorcycles in the winter months either, and that's probably a lot more dangerous. I mean, there's a certain point people got to have common sense.
I don't see people using them in the wintertime in my neighborhood, but I sure see them in the summertime, so.
I don't see a reason to do it. I don't see a reason to do it either, but I have seen some ordinances that have done that. So.
If we're just copying somebody else's ordinance without a cause, and I haven't heard the cause yet.
The cause is to allow it.
Yeah, to make it legal.
We copy ordinances all the time. It's always a basis for another ordinance. I mean, that's what you did. You looked at someone else's. That's how you created this
one. Looked at all different ordinances.
We do all
together.
ours, yeah.
I mean, maybe some other places they've become problematic that way, but you know.
Well, and I think we had a new business that rents these, correct? So here we have a business that's moving in, renting these, and technically it's not legal to drive them. So it felt a little bit odd that we're approving a business to provide something that we don't have an ordinance to allow use of. That's, I think, where this came from.
But he came in here knowing that there was no ordinance.
You're asking what the cause was. I'm just saying that that's where it came from.
I've noted too that the Happy Mower that does the Janesville Road, they use their golf carts all the time, and they drive them on the paths and everything, so.
Now they got to upgrade them.
That's a contracted service, though.
Yeah, which they're allowed by law and.
Argument, you know, can a private party be treated different than a contractor on that?
If the law states
All the
as
time.
such, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, emergency vehicles
and stuff,
can
they all
turn
go
around
up
the
on
freeway, the
sidewalks,
U-turns, a private car can't.
Well, I like this idea. I like the idea of having street legal vehicles out there. People operate things that they shouldn't operate on the roads right now. This just brings up a level of safety. If they've got a broken down golf cart with no brakes on going down Hillendale, you know, they're taking their own life and possibly someone else's. This kind of clarifies things. You can do it. It's been requested by people. It's been popular in other communities. And I think I like the idea. For what it's worth.
I'll ask the question, who's requested it?
Well, there's one lady in the audience that has, so.
All right. Well, that wasn't made known to me before.
She's been sitting here since 5:30 patiently waiting to see what we were going to say.
So.
I would be happy to tell you what I did interested in. I had a moped for 10 or 15 years. My moped is a 49cc, so I don't have to drive a motorcycle license. And I really like it because I live in Muskego for 30 years. It's a small community. And it gets around, and I also have family members. Now, recently, my brother was able to live with me. So I can't ride my moped anymore. And I did go up the street, and I did buy a new golf cart. And I bought it knowing that it wasn't legal, but that we were having discussions about possibly making it legal. So I certainly was one of the persons who brought forward the request to bring it to the board. The minute I bought one, I'm 50 years old. I licensed it, I insured it. I'm not out there to mess around with this thing. I'm certainly not trying to get in my garage where it's going to be stored appropriately. I think that they go 25 miles an hour. I'm gonna go back and forth between my sister's house, I'm gonna go down to Pick and Save, I'm gonna stay within my community. These are meant to be dangerous, these are 16-year-old kids who are buying these, they're licensing them.
Any comments from the council? I know we can't address her unless you want to give her the privilege of the floor, so. All right, anything we need specific for the next reading? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. Ordinance number 1462, an ordinance to amend chapter 132 of the municipal code of the city of Muskego, alcoholic beverages.
The good thing about having our own city attorney is he can look at these matters. The bad thing is a document turns into a beast, but go ahead.
It is.
What you like about it?
I like all the pages.
We have to do that just because we're attorneys. I mean,
Anything specific?
questions about
I think we pay them by the word.
I think so, I guess.
Does anyone need an introduction of what this is, and maybe Jeff?
Yeah, let's just do a quick, overview.
Our current ordinance is very outdated. There's been a lot of changes in the law that we haven't, had in our ordinance. This particular chapter, I mean, things change so fast and so rapidly that the norm now is to just adopt chapter 125, which is the state statute, and anything that comes of that. And so what I tried to do is to get some of the old stuff out. One of the main new things is that the clerk now can issue the operator licenses without having it to come to you all the time. So rather than seeing every time that we have a meeting, you have to look at and approve all those licenses, the clerk can do that now, which kind of takes that off your plate. And don't worry, if there's something that looks questionable or whatever, it'll still come to you. It's just that the run-of-the-mill ones don't need to really come to you anymore. The reasons for denial, that's changed a lot in the statutes, the reasons that you can deny. So our application for a license needs to be changed. Our code puts things in there that we no longer can use for denial. And so I kind of tightened that up so that it would be more apt to what the law says. And then online ordering now has become a big thing where you can order online, you can pick it up curbside. That's allowed and we can regulate it. And so what I did is I tried to put various things in there of how we could regulate that. I know Pick and Save is doing that. I think is Walmart doing it?
Jeff, there is a delivery service too for liquor. I don't know if you're aware of that.
You mean they deliver it to your house?
No, right.
That's currently out there and it hasn't passed yet. So if that passes, I may be coming back to you again saying we've got to do something on that, but that's currently out there. So those are kind of the basics. There was also a little bit about the premises. We've had one where they applied and now they're sitting out there forever and they're wondering, well, how long can they sit out there? So I tried to tie that up a bit too, to say you have to apply within so many days of your occupancy. You have to work with Adam in terms of if you're going to be more than so many days. So that's I know that's a lot, but that's kind of it in a nutshell. If that's a nutshell for you, Kevin.
It's a big house cleaning.
Yeah, it's a huge house cleaning. Yeah.
And we pay them by the speaking word too.
Speaking words, then I could keep talking because that way I'll get more money out of this.
Anything specific needed for next reading? All right. License approvals. Approval of amended license premise for AJ's Bar and Grill on Boxhorn Drive to include grass area immediately surrounding the patio and outside dance permit as follows. Tuesday, August 24th, from 5 p.m. till 8:30 p.m. Sunday, September 12th from 12 p.m. till 3 p.m. Sunday, September 19th from 3:30 p.m. till 6:30 p.m. and Sunday, September 26th from 3:30 p.m. till 6:30 p.m.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously. Voucher approvals.
Motion to approve utility vouchers in the amount of $90,341.94.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Motion to approve tax vouchers in the amount of $3,319.31.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Motion to approve general fund vouchers for $822,781.59.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes.
Motion to approve wire transfers in the amount of $367,890.22.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes as well. City officials report, we have none. Communications miscellaneous business as authorized by law. Any updates from the liaisons? Any future agenda items requests? Motion to adjourn would be in order.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 8:10 PM. Thank you for your patience, everyone.